You know, if you've got a graveyard of half-finished hobbies lying around your house, that dusty guitar, a stack of language books you swore you'd finish, that coding project from last year, then you know exactly the feeling we're talking about today. We're going to dismantle that anxiety that comes with having way too many interests, and we're going to lay out a path for those of us who are never, ever meant to be just one thing. Okay, let's get into it.
Ah, yes, this old chestnut. This is the phrase that gets thrown around for people who just love to learn, who love to explore and jump from one passion to the next. It's meant to sting a little, right? To sound like a warning that all your curiosity is actually a career liability. But what if that is completely 100% wrong? I bet this is the question that just haunts you. After years of starting things with so much passion and then, suddenly, losing all interest, the self-blame kicks in. You start to think, what is wrong with me? Do I lack grit? Do I lack focus? But what if I told you that what you're experiencing isn't a character flaw at all? It's biology.
So let's take a look under the hood. What is actually happening inside your brain when you pick up and then later drop a new passion? It all kicks off with a really powerful chemical reaction.
Okay, so when you first start something new, the learning curve is super steep. You go from knowing absolutely nothing to knowing something pretty quickly. And your brain loves this. It loves that rapid progress, and it rewards you with this massive flood of dopamine. Honestly, it feels like falling in love.
And this is the moment the party stops. The novelty wears off, the learning curve flattens out, and bam! The dopamine faucet shuts right off. To your brain, this literally feels like withdrawal. You're not refusing to act because you're lazy. You're refusing to act because the chemical fuel just got cut off. This right here is the critical fork in the road.
Turns out, neuroscience shows that tenacity is actually physical. It lives in this part of your brain, the AMCC. Think of it like a muscle at the gym. Every time you quit when things get boring or frustrating, you're letting that muscle get weaker. So, the takeaway here is your struggle isn't some kind of moral failing. It might just be an underdeveloped muscle. But what if the reason it's underdeveloped is because your brain is just built differently from the ground up?
Okay, now we're getting to the really good stuff. We are about to reframe this entire experience, not as a weakness, but as a high-performance feature.
I want you to really think about this for a second. What if your tendency to get bored and move on isn't a sign of weakness at all? What if it's a sign that you have a brain that processes the world with incredible, unbelievable depth and intensity?
This comparison just nails it. Most brains are designed to be efficient, to save energy, right? So they're recording the world in, say, 720p. They filter out all the irrelevant noise. But your brain? Oh no. Your brain is recording in glorious 8K resolution. It doesn't filter, it processes everything. The texture of the chair you're in, the low hum of the lights, the unspoken mood in the room.
This is your new label. Let's throw the old ones in the trash. You don't have a defect, you have a high-performance radar system. Your sensitivity is a biological reality, and it's about time we looked at the specific hardware upgrades that come with it.
So what does all this tech speak mean? Well, low-latent inhibition is just a fancy way of saying your brain's spam filter is turned off. Everything seems relevant. Hyperactive mirror neurons means you're deeply empathetic. You don't just see someone's feelings, you literally simulate them in your own brain. And that depth of processing, that's why you might pause before answering a question. You're not slow. You're running a massive simulation, connecting the current moment to everything you've ever learned in all possible futures. We're talking about high-level computation here. Okay, so you're a super sensor with an 8K brain. That's amazing. But how do you build a life that doesn't just feel overwhelming, but is actually successful? Let's talk about a totally new model for your career. For the last century or so, society has worshipped the I-shaped specialist. You know, the person who goes a mile deep in one super narrow field. And that works great in a kind environment, like a chessboard, where all the rules are fixed and predictable. But today's world isn't a kind environment. It's a wicked learning environment, where the rules are constantly changing. And this is where the M-shaped professional, the polymath, absolutely thrives. You don't just have one pillar of knowledge, you build several.
So how do you build this awesome M shape? First, you practice what's called serial mastery. You can't build all the pillars at once. Pick one and commit to it for a season, maybe 6 months, maybe 18 months. Second, go deep enough to hit about 80% fluency. We're not aiming for perfection here. Then, and this is the absolute key, you practice strategic quitting. You're not running away from the hard part, you're graduating with honors to your next pillar.
And now for your secret weapon. This is what it's all for.
All those seemingly random interests you have, they create something called far transfer. A musician who gets harmony might see a totally new way to structure software code. A biologist who understands ecosystems might see a brilliant way to organize a company. You become the bridge between worlds that nobody else even knew were connected.
Living with an 8K brain isn't just about career strategy, though. It's about managing the day-to-day intensity of it all. So let's get into a few practical tools.
Okay, so you're an empathetic person, and someone completely misreads you or criticizes you. The immediate instinct is to JAD. You want to justify, argue, defend, and explain. You think if you can just make them understand, it'll be okay. But with high-conflict people, your perfectly reasonable explanations aren't seen as clarity, they're seen as ammunition. You're just giving them more to use against you.
A much better strategy is BIF. If someone sends you an angry text or email, you don't get into the drama. You respond in a way that is brief, informative about your boundary, friendly in tone, and firm in its conclusion. It starves the conflict of oxygen. It just ends it.
Now, let's talk about those moments. The ones where you're in a conflict, you feel absolutely furious, but your body just betrays you and you start crying. Ugh, it can feel so humiliating. But there's a really powerful way to reframe this.
That's right. You are not breaking down. You are emotionally sweating. Think about it. When a marathon runner is sweating buckets, we don't call them weak, do we? We know they're working incredibly hard. Angry crying is the exact same thing. Your nervous system is sprinting at 150%, and your tears are a biological cooling mechanism to stop your high-performance engine from overheating. It's not weakness, it's thermoregulation.
Finally, I want you to see yourself through this incredible metaphor. For years, you've probably been told to be more like a dandelion, Be resilient, be tough, survive anywhere. But you're not a dandelion, you're an orchid. And yeah, in a harsh, toxic environment, an orchid is going to wither. But when you place it in the right environment, with the right soil, the right light, the right support, it doesn't just survive, it blooms with a complexity and a beauty that the dandelion can never, ever achieve. You don't need to toughen up, you need to find your greenhouse.
So here's the bottom line. Your brain isn't broken. It's built for a different kind of world. It was never meant to master just one thing. It was built to be a bridge. Your curiosity isn't a liability. It is the very engine of your unique genius. So stop apologizing for it and start building. The only real question is, what will you connect next?